Hi, I'm Hannah Jones and welcome to this week's MASTS cast. Before we delve into the content of today's MASTS episode, I would just like to highlight that if you submitted an e-poster or a talk abstract for the MASTS annual science meeting, please keep an eye on your emails. We've had all the abstracts in, so we will be contacting you all very shortly. In today's episode, I talked to Dr. Aurora Maccarone from the Heriot-Watt University about her recent fellowship and what it will be looking at. She was awarded the Royal Academy of Engineering Research Fellowship, so we'll be talking a bit more about that. And I also talked to Dr. Debbie RusseLl from the Sea Mammal Research Unit at the University of St Andrews about a project that she is leading, which is called EcoStar and is a part of the InSight programme as well. Before we get to my interviews, just a couple of external events that I would just like to highlight that are free for anyone to attend. The first is happening on the 2nd of October. This is titled Biodiversity and Planning on the 4th. This is being organised by the 4th Estuary Forum. It's a webinar, so it's only lasting an hour, and it features talks by, for instance, Fiona Munro from the Marine Scotland licensing operations team, and also Zoe Cleland from RSPB. There are a couple of other people speaking, and it is open to all and it's free, so please check out this link below this video if you're interested in attending. And another event that's happening on the 14th of October is being organised by the University of Aberdeen in association with the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. This is titled Introduction to the Nagoya Protocol on access and benefit sharing in the UK. If this is something that interests you, it's starting at 2 o'clock on the 14th and it's lasting about an hour and a half, and again it's free and it's open to all, so you can just dip in and out of that webinar if you fancy listening in. And just a quick shout out about a job opportunity that is at SAMS and is closing on the 30th of September. This is a postdoctoral research assistant in marine growth. The job will entail aspects such as scuba-based sampling, training AI algorithms, collection of RFE footage, and as well as analysing it, and production and calibration of 3D models from video footage. There's a lot more information online about this job, but as I said, it's at SAMS, it's a postdoctoral research assistant position, and it's closing on the 30th of September, so please check out the link that is below this video if this is something that interests you or if you would like to just find out more. And now for my chat with Dr. Aurora Maccarone. She is at Heriot-Watt University and very recently got awarded the Royal Academy of Engineering Research Fellowship for the title Underwater 3D Optical Imaging Based on Quantum Detection. We spoke about what her research is going to focus on, but first I started off with just asking her, what does quantum technology mean?
First of all, thank you for contacting me. And to go back to your question, the term quantum technology includes all those technologies that are based on principles of quantum physics, which studies how the matter and the light behave at the fundamental level. And over the last few years, the researchers were able to exploit quantum effects to develop a new generation of quantum technologies that can be used in practical applications, such as imaging, for example. But there are several applications that we can consider, like quantum communication and so on. So basically, I use quantum sensors for imaging underwater.
Excellent. So how does this quantum technology allow us to view underwater objects?
First of all, water is a highly attenuating environment, and in challenging conditions, such as, for example, a high level of scattering, conventional techniques typically struggle to see underwater. And this is because the amount of light that arrives from the target to the system often is not enough to obtain an image of the target. And our system is based on the quantum sensors, so it differs from other approaches as it uses state-of-the-art single photon detectors, which are very sensitive detectors that are capable of detecting an individual quantum of light, which is the photon. So by using these single photon detectors, we are able to obtain an image in extremely challenging environments by counting the number of photons that we detect, and this gives us the intensity information. But at the same time, we can measure the time of flight of the detected photons, which is the time that the photons need to travel from the light source to the target and then back to the system. And from these timing measurements, we can obtain the depth information of the target. And typically, we record this timing information with the picosecond resolution, which means that we are able to resolve sub-millimeter details and obtain a high-resolution three-dimensional image of the target. And the beauty of these is that we can obtain a depth profile also by even by detecting an average of less than 1 photon per pixel, which is something that goes farther. This is how the beauty of this technique.
Wow, so you're able to build up really great detailed images, 3D images of these items underwater. So building on what this technology can do, what are the applications that your fellowship could be applied to with this kind of research?
Actually, can be several. For example, inspection, monitoring, surveying, security and defense, but also marine archaeology, marine science. There are several applications that can be investigated in with these type of sensors.
What was going to be the game plan for your 5 years? Because this fellowship, this very prestigious fellowship that you've been awarded, is actually 5 years worth of your time for this pure research. So what are you going to be doing?
Well, the main thing will be to investigate. I will investigate several arrays of single photon detectors that can be used for underwater imaging. And as I said before, different applications will require different characteristics for these detectors. So this is something I will investigate as well. And of course, the most suitable device, I will use the most suitable device to build a prototype of a system for three-dimensional underwater imaging. And I will. The aim is that I will perform trials in laboratory condition first, and then move to a natural environment that could be a loch or the sea. We'll see. We will see how it goes on.
If you would like to find out more about Aurora's work or just contact her, then please check out the link that is below this video where you'll be able to find all that information. And now for my chat with Dr. Debbie RusseLl, who is based at the Sea Mammal Research Unit at the University of St Andrews and is involved in the project called EcoStar, a part of the InSight programme.
Hi Debbie, thank you for joining me today and agreeing to feature in this week's MASTS. You are one of the leading researchers of a new project that is NERC funded and is a part of the InSight programme, which is influence of man-made structures in the ecosystem. And the project that you're involved in is called EcoStar, or its longer name is Ecosystem Level Importance of Structures as Artificial Reefs. Now you are one of the team members in SMRU, the Sea Mammal Research Unit here at the University of St Andrews, but this is a much bigger collaborative project. So before we delve into the nitty-gritty of what the project's going to be looking at, who else are you working with on this?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to chat about this. Yeah, this is basically a joint venture between SMRU at the University of St Andrews and also CFAS. We also have additional team members from Aarhus University, the Royal Belgian Institute, and also from Ecopath International. So it's kind of a nice big team. We also actually have more input from other project partners. So we have data will be given to us by University of College Cork, La Rochelle University. But we also have kind of a bigger steering kind of committee, as it were. We will be getting input from and expertise and guidance from BAYS, GNCC, Nature Scot, formerly SNH, and Natural England, as well as ICES. So we're quite lucky to get kind of a lot of input.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got loads of experts involved in this project, which is really great to hear. So in that title of the project that we are discussing, it mentions artificial reefs. Now, for those people who might not be too sure about what that is, what does the term artificial reef mean, and where do we find them, for instance, in the North Sea where you're looking?
Yeah, so basically an artificial reef is essentially just a community which is associated with a hard structure which is man-made. The actual strictest definition of an artificial reef is something that's deliberately been put in the sea, which allows things to attach to it and a community to build up. But here we're actually looking at a broader definition of artificial reef, which is essentially any subsea structure, a man-made subsea structure. It doesn't need to be deliberately put in there for the purposes of creating an artificial reef. But basically things like the oil and gas infrastructure in the North Sea and the foundations of wind turbines in the North Sea are the key things we're looking at, as well as wrecks to some extent.
Mm-hmm. And why are they of interest to you as researchers, particularly, for instance, the Sea Mammal Research Unit and your other collaborators as well?
So I think there's various things. They're interesting in a kind of ecological aspect and a behavioural aspect in terms of why communities seem to associate with them, but also the influence then on top predators. So this work really started because of data from a telemetry device, so an electronic device that we superglued to the back of the neck of a seal, and that falls off during the annual moult, so it never stays on for more than a year. But essentially for another project, we had superglued these tags on to actually look at the effect of pile driving during the construction of a wind farm on seal behaviour. But when we did this, as well as looking at that, we also found that one of the individuals travelled out to a wind farm, Sheringham Shoal wind farm, which was quite a new wind farm. And you can see from the video that the animal actually went from turbine to turbine, and the turbines are shown in these white squares. And the individual clearly was foraging at these turbines and doing dives, so clearly utilising the artificial reef that had already formed there. And so that really kind of got us more interested in the degree to which this is a specialism, or is this important in terms of a population level, or even for those individuals, could those individuals then forage elsewhere, or are they really kind of getting used to relying on these artificial reefs? The kind of wider question really is to do with the oil and gas infrastructure and the decommissioning of the North Sea. And, there's thousands of structures in the North Sea, and it's such a rapidly changing situation with decommissioning and also with the marine renewable industry development. And so really it's to understand what is the ecosystem level effect of these structures. And there's a lot of kind of knowledge gaps despite a lot of research so far. So for example, even just in terms of whether these structures for the most part concentrate biomass that's already in the environment. So they're simply kind of congregating at these structures. And if that's the case, they may actually be very vulnerable to being hoovered up by marine predators. Or is it actually that these structures increase the biomass, so actually increase the biomass in the North Sea of some species? And that's really something that's not quite answered yet. And so at the moment, there's an OSPAR legislation, which means that almost all structures in the North Sea, once they have finished their kind of economic viability, their usefulness, they need to be removed. And there is debate as to whether that is ecologically the best thing to do. And so part of this will hopefully input into that kind of legislation to decide on what's the best course of action. But obviously there's other things to consider in terms of artificial reefs and whether to leave structures in, as well as the ecology. So we're just looking at the ecology aspect.
Yeah, so even though you're looking at the ecology side, it's a hugely kind of societal big question too, because we want to obviously use renewable energy, which means putting infrastructure into the water, but then also there are these great big oil sites as well in the North Sea, which have, as you said, developed their own ecosystems around them. And what do we do with them, really? It's a big question. And so you've already elaborated that the knowledge gaps that you're going to be filling in. And I take that it's not just sea mammals that we will be looking at for data. It's going to be basically or anything that we can find around these infrastructures.
Yeah, exactly. So we're super lucky with our amazing team that we've got people that specialise on the benthos. We've also got people that'll be modeling fish distributions. But also the kind of key thing is that any effects are going to be quite complex. And so it's potential that the effects will be very indirect, say, for example, on marine predators. They'll be mediated through changes in their prey, but also then how do those predators react in terms of changing their functional responses to go for more abundant prey or less abundant prey. So we're trying to look at how those things all interact at an ecosystem level to address some of the knowledge gaps.
Again, as always, if you want to check out more information about these programs or any contact details of who I've spoken to, then please check out the links that are below this video. You'll be able to find all the information that you need here. That's everything from me this week, so stay safe and have a great weekend.